What's up, everybody? TJ, BHC Lead P here. I'm a pastor in the Wyoming area. I make videos about the Bible, Bibles, and the everyday life of a pastor. And today we have a mini blog or vlog slash new little product I found that I'm really excited about. So let's jump into the video. All right, so I am currently driving, which I know is not the safest thing, but I do have a mount in the vehicle that I'm driving at this time now, and so we're testing this out. So today has been a crazy day, busy but good. This morning there's this thing in this area called pastor prayer. Basically, a ton of pastors get together. We pray for each other, for our city, obviously for the world, and just kind of have some time to hang out and talk and vent and do all of that kind of stuff together. And so I went this morning, myself, our children's pastor, and our interim youth pastor all went. It was a good time. And then after that, I had a meeting with them, and then I went and ran an errand because I had a conversation with one of the pastors there that made an interesting comment. So what he said is that at his church, once someone accepts Christ, he gives them a little paperback book of the book of John. Once they read that to him, or not to him, but once they make their way through that, they bring it and they talk to him about it, like tell him, but they just have a small discussion. Like they don't have to give a rundown of the book of John, but so he can verify they read it. He gives them a Bible. So the errand that I ran, and really what it was, I went after that and I studied for Wednesday to where we were going. And one of the things that I've been looking for is a New King James Bible that isn't terrible. The one I have is horrible. And I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. I'm headed to the office right now so we can talk about what I just picked up for super cheap, by the way. And so the errand, I wasn't even like thinking about it. And then this pastor made a comment that I was talking to today, and he does something really interesting. So once someone accepts Christ in his church, he gives them a book of John. And that's like, you're going to learn about the character of Jesus. And so once they've read that, they come together, they discuss it, and however long, it takes them to do that. And then he gives them a new Bible. Now, they use the NKJV at his church, and what brought the whole conversation up was he had a Schuyler Bible. If you're not familiar with Schuyler Bibles, they're very, very expensive, but they're very, very nice. And so we were talking about that, and then we kind of started talking about what we're doing for Easter, and he did an interesting thing a couple years ago, but anyways. So he made the comment that he gives this Bible out that they got from Walmart. And I was like, what do you mean? And so we were talking about that. That's actually the Bible he teaches out of. And I was like, huh, interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go look for that. And I went and looked and kind of ran around. But I'm going to show you what I found here in just a second as soon as I get to the office. Okay, so I'm currently in my office here at the church. And what I meant by the NKJV that I have being terrible is, so this is it, okay? So this is the one that I have. Then I have a couple of them, but this is the main one. I'm gonna move that over because there's a reason that's here. This is the new one. Now, this one is not bad. I bought it a long, long time ago. And when I say a long, long time ago, I mean like a little while ago. Like it would have been a couple years ago. And I got it to go speak at a camp. Talked about it in my like Bibles I Own video. And part of the problem I have with it is kind of wherever you are, it's super stiff and wants to close. I think that's because this is not, sorry about that, this is not a Smith sewn binding, which is fine, not a big deal, because it is less expensive, but I think it's 100% paste down. So, that being said, I'm not a huge fan of this Bible. It's also in their True Tone or leather soft, but it doesn't feel the greatest. It's kind of rough. Like, it's an interesting Bible, but it's just not something that I'm willing to use. So as I was talking to my guy today, he mentioned that they gave away a type of NKJV. whenever someone accepted Christ. And so this is not that one. This is actually cheaper than that one. So if you can tell, this was $18. That's it. 18 bucks. Obviously, Thomas Nelson. It's a comfort print, personal size, end of verse cross references, which that's what we're going to talk about because that's what stuck out to me when I talked to him. It's in their brown leather soft. Sorry, it is. It has a concordance. It's a durable and flexible Smith-sewn binding, so it's Smith-sewn. It is a red letter text, which is whatever. The other one that I was looking at that he gets has one ribbon. This has two. So let's unbox this thing. So obviously, just a cover, right? So a little dust jacket almost. And we will keep this in the office, so we're gonna throw it over there. But this is what the Bible looks like. It's a super nice brown. I don't hate it, which is actually surprising because if you were to look in my collection, there's very few brown Bibles. The ribbons, I'm not a big ribbon guy. As long as they come to the corner and I can get the Bible open, that's all that matters to me. So it being Smith-sewn, one, it is very flexible, okay? Which is a big thing for me. Because like this one is not flexible at all. It's just not. Like it's not super flexible. This one, however, is very flexible. And I think as it breaks in, because it is it's a more inexpensive Bible, that it will lay down just fine. Now, I mean, so as far as teaching, maybe I wouldn't use it because you can't really lay down until Ruth, but it's still a really, really nice Bible, and we're going to do a couple things to this one. So, anyways, the reason I wanted the King James, or not the King James, the New King James, just a translation, so I'm still kind of looking at what I'm going to use in the coming year. Right now, my Bible of choice is the CSB. It's what I read. Obviously you know about my Everyday Study Bible. Now this is the CSB verse-by-verse Bible. There's a video of this on my channel. Here's what I mean by verse-by-verse. If you look, the verses are all laid out. So here's 21, here's 22, here's 23, here's 24. And I have fallen in love with the verse-by-verse layout. This Bible, this New King James right here, and I didn't know this when I went to look at it, so I went and looked at the one because the pastor said he gets theirs from Walmart, so I went and looked. And I found it, and it's not a bad Bible. It's just a little too big. Like this is borderline too big, but to me there's like a purpose of why this is big with the wide margins. That other one didn't have it. It was just a really big font that made the Bible bigger. This one is also in that verse-by-verse layout. So if you don't know the difference between, so like this is paragraph, right? So you're in 1 Kings, and here's all your paragraph stuff, where your version would be your translation would be in a paragraph, and then you have your books of poetry where it's laid out more like poetry. Part of the reason that I'm looking at the New King James is because how the poetry reads. So I want to go into books that aren't poetry and more historic, and then see if that goes together. Because I do like poetry that's almost Shakespearean, and so just kind of curious and looking, and obviously don't want to erase everything with the CSB. So just checking out different ones. I want to be honest. But when we say paragraph, so other translation. So this is my minister's Bible, my King James Minister Bible. And honestly, no wonder I like verse by verse, because this is a verse by verse layout. And I wouldn't have known it at the time because I didn't know all this till recently. Let's go with, I bet you this one is not. Yeah, this one is not. So now obviously this is a parallel Bible, so it adds different things to what we're going through. But if you look, so you have 9, reading, 10, this is a bad example, 12 is like right here in the middle of the page, right? With verse by verse, you have them laid out, verse 15, verse 16, verse 17, and each one, verse 15, verse 16, verse 17, each one starts a new thing. Now, there are not any margins, nothing like that, but it is verse by verse, which is something I'm in love with at this point in time. We'll get this Bible out of the way. It is a readable text. And it is, especially for the price, y'all, this is a beautiful, beautiful Bible. Let's go back here. The red letter's not terrible. I'm not, actually, surprisingly, I am not, especially with my history with the King James, I don't love the red letter text, but it doesn't bug me. But this is subtle. I don't hate it at all. And then in the back, you have a concordance that text is not comfort print, and then you have maps. Now they're kind of glossy and weird, but they're maps, and if you use them, you use them, and if you don't, you're not going to anyways, but they're there. So I got this at Hobby Lobby for $18 after tax, and I just think it is so, so amazing. But the thing that piqued my interest when talking to that pastor this morning, we're gonna zoom in a little right here, okay? And I'm sorry that you're so close now. But the references are right at the end of the verse. So in 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 1, right? So you have your verse, and then you have 2 Kings 4:38 is the reference. So you can just flip over to 4:38. You have your reference, and obviously I am a folder. And then you go and you read 38 down, boom, there's your other references. And so that really piqued my interest. If you're not familiar with different type of references, so you have footnotes at the bottom here that explain so in verse 1, in chapter 1, verse 5, it says, now the bronze altar that Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hurihad, made, he put, and then there's an A there, before the tabernacle of the Lord. Solomon and the assembly sought him there. And then you have your references, but then you have the footnote, and then it says, some authorities read it it was there. So you have footnotes and then references. So like in my CSB verse by verse Bible, you have your footnotes at the bottom as to why they translate or a different translation, what it says. And then you have all your references down in the corner. Now, I do like this reference more than center column references. To me, it leaves more room for the margins, and I understand that this isn't a super wide margin, but it leaves room for that. But those are the different types of references, and they're all in those bottom left corners. It's cool, it's usable, but it can be confusing at times, where with this one, they are right at the end of the verses. And so I think that that's super cool. So that being said, super cool Bible. Really well done for a cheap, inexpensive, or not cheap, but inexpensive price. Thomas Nelson, good job. I can't wait to look at it a little more and kind of get into it. I know, I need more Bibles. I definitely don't, but those end of verse references really piqued my interest, and I've been looking for a new King James, new King James versus the one that I previously showed, the Sounder Stack. So that's it for the video. Just a real quick, cool little find for super inexpensive. So if you have a Hobby Lobby close to you, go look at it. Go check out this Bible. I do recommend it. Now, obviously, that's just on first impression. Reading it is different. I do know that the New King James translation is a good translation. I have enjoyed it in the past. Like when I used that one for camp, I really enjoyed it. So I can't wait to dig into it a little more, and we'll let you know how that goes and I'm gonna make some adjustments just because it was inexpensive and I can. But as always, one, dig into your word. I hope that you are enjoying your word this year. The word of God is just so awesome. And two, remember that Christ died and gave himself for you. And as we're in the Easter season, I want you to remember that so much more importantly, and that he resurrected to give you a new life. All right, have a blessed day.